And then the first time I entered my life was before 31. I entered my life through someone else, my girlfriend. And she came home crying uncontrollably. And Jay, I mean, she was like, what is it? What is it? My mom, and then my mom has cancer. And then even worse, they gave her 9 weeks to live. They just sent her home. And I think if it would have been me, I think my fear would have overcome me. But you know, most people will do more for people they love, whether it be their kids or their family or someone else, than they'll ever do for themselves. And so it's like I kicked into gear. That's what I do. It's like, okay, if there's a problem, there's a solution. I said, look, there's thousands of people that had stage 4 cancer and that are alive today. We're going to find out what they do. We're going to do the same thing. She's not going to die. And then I just read every book I could on cancer. And I came across this one book called One Answer to Cancer. It's not the book I'd recommend today because there's so many better ones today, but it was written by this dentist who had pancreatic cancer, which is the most vicious cancer of all. He was given 6 weeks to live, and this is 12 years later, and he's alive. And so he laid out what he did to cleanse his body, and it sounded radical in those days, pancreatic enzymes. So I went to this woman, her name was Jenny. She was in her 40s. And I said, Jenny, you know, I know you don't want to die. I said, but just going home and do nothing. Why don't you read this book? This guy was in worse shape than you, and see if you wanted to apply this. And she read it, and she got inspired. And I gave her As a Man Thinketh to kind of work on her head a little bit. Anyway, long story short, within about 3 weeks, she had a tumor that was protruding in her shoulder and then one in her feminine organs. And you couldn't see anything 3 weeks later in her shoulder. And at the period of, I think, about 9 weeks, when she was supposed to die, and she looked good, she had great energy, and like literally looked transformed. The doctor finally said, this is crazy. Let's do exploratory surgery. So they went in her body, and all they could find left of the cancer was something the size of my pinky's fingernail. And so the doctor said, this is a miracle. She said, it is a miracle, but let me tell you what I did. And he was like, no, this is spontaneous remission. I don't want to hear what you did. What you did doesn't matter. But she's in her mid 80s today. She's still alive. And that shifted me from victimhood, like,